I used to be 30% body fat. For years, I tried every diet under the sun, but nothing seemed to work. But all that changed when I stopped chasing quick fixes and I finally started doing what actually works. I lost 70 pounds of fat, dropped to 12% body fat, and completely transformed how I looked and felt without starving myself or cutting out foods I enjoy. And in this video, I'm going to break down for you exactly how and what I ate so that you can do the same and finally get rid of your fat for good. But before I tell you what did work for me, let me tell you what didn't work for me, because I wasted years of my life on BS, so let me save you the trouble. The first thing I tried was all of the fad diets. I'm talking keto, carnivore, and even veganism. The first one I tried was keto, and I actually made some good progress in the first couple weeks. The scale was moving, but of course at the time I didn't know that wasn't fat, and it was mostly just water weight. As the weeks went on, I started to feel tired, weak, and just not like myself at all. And of course, because I told myself I'm never going to eat any carbs again, all I wanted was carbs. And then one Sunday afternoon, it finally happened. I broke. It started off with just one piece of toast, but before I knew it, I consumed 3,000 calories of carbs in just one afternoon. And from there, over the next few days, it had spiraled, and a week later, I had put everything I had lost straight back on. It was the same story for when I tried carnivore, and with veganism, let's just say I could not think of any worse fate than never consuming an animal product again. The problem was not the diets themselves, it was the all or nothing mindset that came with them. For some people they work, and yes, that's great, but for most people they don't, because you make one slip up and you feel as though you may as well just give up, and that creates guilt around food, which worsens the problem. I also tried extreme deficits. I'm talking 1,000 calories or more, and sometimes even up to 2,000 calories a day. The idea behind that was, well, I can't stick to diets for a long time, so maybe if I try and lose as much fat as possible in a short period of time, that will work. But I was wrong. All that did was completely crash my energy levels. I felt like shit all of the time, and in the long run it actually made me fatter because it started to cause binges. When you drastically cut your calories like that, a few things happen. Firstly, your body starts dumping glycogen and water, so the scale looks like it's moving down really quickly. Secondly, your body burns both fat and muscle to make up for the massive deficit in energy, and that's why so many people end up skinny fat. And thirdly, it completely ruins your hormone levels, which causes low energy, low libido, poor sleep, and can actually cause your body to store more body fat. So yeah, avoid extreme deficits at all costs. After years of trying and failing, I finally realized I had to stop chasing quick fixes, and I had to stop trying to lose fat as fast as possible. Once I made those mental shifts and I finally found a strategy that actually worked, it allowed me to lose 70 pounds of body fat and completely change my life forever. So what is it that I did? The first and most important step was implementing a calorie deficit. And no, I'm not talking about a massive one like I had tried before. I'm talking about a sustainable and steady 500 calorie deficit, because at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, if you're not in a calorie deficit, you will not lose fat. Once I did that, everything changed. For the first time, a calorie deficit didn't feel like something that was difficult or unsustainable, and all I had to do to make consistent fat loss was track my calories. All of the cravings I had with other diets and large deficits finally went away, and that meant I could stick to the diet for long enough to actually see results, and the results that I saw were great. I started to lose 1 pound of body fat per week. But more importantly, I was only losing fat and not fat and muscle, because I had enough energy to train in the gym properly. All of the negative side effects I had experienced with large deficits completely went away, because my body wasn't going into starvation mode. So as tempting as it can be to do some crazy deficit to see as fast results as possible, it works against you in more ways than one. Set a 500 calorie deficit and stick to it for a long period of time. That way you're actually going to make progress, and you're going to be able to stick to it for long enough to get to your goal. So if my 500 calorie deficit was the base of my fat loss pyramid, the second level was having a high protein intake. Getting a high protein intake is absolutely essential, especially whilst you're in a calorie deficit. If you don't eat enough protein, you run the risk of losing muscle whilst in a deficit, so you should aim for 1 gram of protein per pound of your desired body weight. At the time, my desired body weight was 200 pounds, so then I ate 200 grams of protein per day. That may sound like a lot, but when you build every meal you consume around a solid protein source like chicken, beef, Greek yogurt, or eggs, it becomes really easy. Not only is protein essential for maintaining your muscle mass, but it also keeps you fuller for longer. And most people stop their diet because they just can't handle being hungry anymore, and protein completely takes that away. It keeps you full, which is incredibly important. Not to mention the fact that protein has the highest thermic effect out of all 3 macronutrients, which means your body burns more calories digesting it than with fat or carbs. So whilst the calorie deficit is the most important thing by far, Having a high protein intake is so important unless you want to end up skinny fat, which most of us don't want. We want lean, athletic, and healthy physiques, and protein is the catalyst for that. So believe me, if you're not tracking and not getting enough protein, you are making fat loss 10 times harder than it needs to be. Up your protein intake and you will see the difference almost instantly. Remember how earlier I said that extreme and fad diets don't work for 99% of people because they're too restrictive? Well, that's why I then implemented the 80-20 rule. For so long, I thought fat loss came from eating perfectly 100% of the time. So that meant no chocolate, no pizza, and no bad food. But what finally helped me break the cycle and lose 70 pounds of body fat was the 80-20 rule, where 80% of my daily calorie intake came from nutrient-dense whole foods like lean proteins, fruit, vegetables, complex carbs, and healthy fats. And then the other 20% came from whatever I felt like, whether that was ice cream, chips, or even some cake. It did not matter. Now don't get it twisted, that isn't permission for you to go off and eat a litre of Ben & Jerry's every single night. This only works if you're in a calorie deficit and you have a high protein intake. Then you can integrate balance. So many foods for some reason are labeled as good and bad. And when we attach human emotions and human attributes to food, that creates problems. The 80-20 rule works so well because it takes perfection out of the equation. It just requires consistency. That's all fat loss is, consistency with the right habits over time. And that's when everything changes. The binges stop, the cravings go, and you can lose fat without losing your mind. So forget the all or nothing approaches. Eat well 80% of the time, and you will lose fat. And something that ties into that so much, and actually the final change I made that made all the difference, was I stopped feeling guilty about food. For most of my life, every time I ate something I wasn't supposed to, I would beat myself up, label myself as a failure, and I would say to myself, well, I've already messed up once, I may as well just scrap the entire diet. But it was never the food that ruined my progress, it was the guilt. Guilt is never going to help you eat better, curate better habits, or help you lose fat. All it's going to do is keep you in a binge restrict cycle for the rest of your life. If you want to lose fat and you want to keep it off for the rest of your life, you have to separate all human emotion and labels with food. Food is just food. It isn't good, bad, friendly, or evil. Some is nutritious, some is calorie dense, but none of it has the power to ruin or better your life unless you let it. It's okay to have a greasy triple cheeseburger with extra sauce sometimes, as long as you eat well most of the time. Eat based on your goal, not based on feeling. You control what goes in your mouth. So when you know you need to put the fork down, put it down. Food is fuel. Food is for function. It isn't and should never be something you attach positive or negative emotions to. Now that isn't to say you can't enjoy food. Just know that if you're eating 5,000 calories of chocolate and crisps a day, and that's what brings you joy, then you have a problem. If you want to succeed long term, get rid of the guilt. Take a step back and realize that fat loss doesn't come from punishing yourself. It comes from consistency, good habits, and a healthy relationship with your body and food. One calorie dense meal doesn't ruin your progress, nor does it define you. So there you have it. That's what actually worked for me when it comes to what I ate and how to actually see food and nutrition overall. No crazy diets or deficits and no weird shit. Just a smart deficit, a high protein intake, the 80-20 rule, and finally getting rid of all the guilt I had associated with food. I went from 30% body fat to 12% body fat, and the best part is I kept it off and I feel better than I ever have. If you take away just one thing from this video, I want it to be this: fat loss doesn't have to ruin your life. You just need the right mindset, the right system, and a little bit of patience. So take something from this video and apply it today, and a year down the line, I promise you will look back and you will thank yourself. If you want some help with that and you want some personalized guidance and you want to work with me one-on-one so that you can finally lose fat and get in the best shape of your life and stay there forever, click the link in the description and book a call. Other than that, if this video helped, leave it a like, share it with a friend, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.